Hey guys, welcome to Carpal. Welcome to another video with us. So we have the Datsun Go Facelift. This is the one that was launched earlier this October, and we are having a proper video of the Datsun Go coming up. That's going to be a very comprehensive video that's talking about the strengths and weaknesses. So we thought we should first give you a glimpse around the vehicle, just talk about how it looks from the outside, the changes on the outside, the inside, the boot space and things like that. So to start with, I think the exteriors is the good point of conversation here. So the exteriors, right? So this is quite new because you have a new bumper. This is a new front bumper here, and you can see that you have these vertical LED DRLs slotted in, and this is really cool because this is not like, doesn't have a switch to control. It starts when the engine is on, and that's exactly what the purpose is for, right? So LED daytime running lamps, and that's quite impressive because it makes you feel like it's a B segment hatchback, something like at the range of probably the Hyundai Grand i10, for example, right? And what's also new is this. So this is a new hexagonal front grille. What's special about it is that you have this chrome strip running around this whole thing right now, again trying to give you a very premium appeal. So these are small things that catch your eye, and you may not make a note of them consciously, but it's going to start making you think that this is a slightly more premium vehicle than it sounds. And of course, the orange paint job. So this is called the amber orange. It's introduced with the facelift. The Datsun Go Plus, in fact, is also facelifted, and it has a signature brown color, which I think you should check out as well. But the orange for the Datsun Go works really well because it makes the car look much smarter. And this again trying to imitate one of the B segment hatchbacks that have such colors and can pull it off. And the good thing is Datsun Go can pull this off really well. It sort of takes your notice, and it sort of makes sure that you give it that second look. And of course, this is a single wiper vehicle, so this is not changed from the previous version. That's okay, it's not complaining because you have this very well very I would say long arm here that would give you a good wiping effect. Now at the side is where things get a little interesting, so let me just take you there. So first thing you notice is this is an alloy wheel. This is not just an alloy wheel, this is the diamond cut alloy wheel, right? And also it's a fact that it's a 14-inch wheel. So usually in a compact hatchback, number one, you don't get a 14-inch wheel, you get only a 13-inch wheel. And number two, you only get non-alloy wheels, you only get steel wheels. And this time you get an alloy wheel and a diamond cut one at that, and that's quite impressive. That's like screaming out value for money. And one more thing, very interesting thing, is it's a 165mm tire, which means that it's going to have slightly more grip, and again trying to sort of look like a B segment hatchback here, trying to behave like a B segment hatchback here, because most budget hatchbacks have only a 150 or 155mm tire, and this time you get a 165, and that's commendable because that gives you a little more grip than usual. And because of that 14-inch wheel change, you also have 180mm of total ground clearance, right? So this is quite useful, especially in the city when you're driving the city, because you have these speed breakers coming in the middle, and you can pass through them without worrying about the underbody getting scraped or getting scratched, right? And this here, so this is my personal favorite. So if you notice, you have this nice little angle here with the tail lamps, just a little position, a little backward. And that to me is very interesting, very intriguing. I'm not sure, don't ask me why, but I find that very interesting. And talking about this specific rear 3/4, you notice that you have a gap here, right? So the thing is, the whole wheel well isn't protected with a plastic item, so it's going to be exposed. So when you're driving through, say, gravel, you're going to have the stones continuously coming off the tire and hitting the wheel well here, therefore giving a lot of noise on the inside. And if you're seated in the rear, so you're gonna hear them quite prominently. So This is the rear, and what I also like about the rear is that you have this accent here, and that sort of reminds you of the Ford Freestyle's rear bumper as well, because it has a similar accent. And you have a rear wiper plus washer. So it's the wiper here, and you have the washer up there. So this is something that's not common for a budget hatchback, but Datsun is given again trying to imitate a B segment hatchback, right? And it's really cool because you have a lot of glass area, so the visibility from the front is of the rear from the front is going to be quite good. And what is also nice is that you have this nice little chrome strip. Again, these are again things that the most B segment hatchbacks do. And even in fact, if you go upwards north of 10 lakhs, you'll see a lot of sedans following this. You have a chrome strip on the tailgate. That is again speaking in a small way that this car is not as I would say a budget hatchback as it seems. It is actually quite premium. And of course, you have rear sensors here. So talking about reverse sensors, you have only 4 of them here across the bumper, but they are quite enough because again it has a pretty decent range and therefore can warn you of certain obstacles. By the way, these reverse sensors are standard across the Datsun Go range, and this includes even what's also standard is you have driver airbag, passenger airbag, and ABS being standard across the vehicle. So let me quickly give you a look into the boot space here. So you have this little control opening the boot space. So here we go. So of course there's no tray over here to sort of distinguish the cargo area and the passenger area, but that's okay. That's it's a budget hatchback after all. I've kept some stuff here sort of give you an example of give you some sort of idea of how the amount of space you have. It's around 265 liters, very functional, very usable, and even the loading lip here is quite low because you don't have to pick up something all the way up and then drop it there, and that makes it all quite useful, right? And so yep, in fact you even have these things covered, right? So if you look at this, if you're not sure if the camera can capture it, you have this plastic lid also covering the wires, and that's something that most B segment hatchbacks in fact don't really have for the sake of cost cutting. And when you are attempting to close this, so you need to use a little bit of force because the boot doesn't close quite easily, and so you need to have a little bit of force, and when you close it with that force, it gives you a very metallic clank that's quite painful. So let me just show you how it is on the inside. So you notice, so this is me. This seat of course is adjusted to my driving position, so my height is around 5'10" for your reference. So this is about the boot space, this is about the rear room. Now you can see that there's just about adequate leg room here. And if you notice my feet here, the knee room is just about here. I mean, I'm just adequate, so there's nothing that you can complain about, but it's something that would be just about fine, right? And one more thing you notice is that this is a flat bench, right? So there is no angle to the bench, it's a flat bench. So when you sit, you would feel like you would like a little bit more of thigh support, but since it's going to be a flat bench, you may not get the best of it. And yes, you also get rear windows, power windows. That's again a fairly premium feature in a compact hatchback, because in the front you're eligible to get it, but in the rear not really. And Datsun is changing the rules, rewriting the rules of that game, the budget hatchback game. Moving on to the front. So I'm not sure if the camera is able to capture this specifically. So there is a little bit of vibration that comes through, especially when the vehicle is at idle, because again it's a 3-cylinder, so vibrations just come across, and at idle you'll see the door vibrate, and even you can feel the vibration even in this one here. And again the same thing with the door, just like the boot, you need to close it with a little bit of force to make sure that the door is closed. Moving on to the front. So the biggest change for the Go is the newly designed dashboard layout, right? So let me just give you a quick view, and yep, right, there we go. So again, I haven't I just closed the door normally, but it wouldn't close, so I need to put in a little more effort, and that metallic clank isn't that great a feeling. And so if you notice that this is a whole new dashboard, right? It's a whole new layout. And what earlier with the Datsun Go, you had an open glove box, which wasn't very welcome, but now you finally have a functional and closed glove box that that is quite useful. You have some cubby space for your for your storage. You can store probably a small bottle here. All the doors have a bottle holder unit there. And the biggest change here is, of course, this guy. So this is a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system that supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and that's quite cool because you get these things in probably the top variants of something like the Baleno or the Honda Jazz or the Ford Freestyle and things like that. So getting it here is actually quite welcome, because this is going to be a car that's around 5.6 lakhs on the on-road price in most cities, and that way it's a lot of value for money when you get these two specific features. Now one thing about the touchscreen is that there are no volume knobs or track change knobs or dials for that matter. So when you're driving, you still have to use the plus and minus here to change your volume, and that could get a little taxing because you need to actually take your line of vision out from the road, put it on the screen, make sure you're able to touch these two controls here to control the volume. And that could get a little taxing, but that's of course something that you will get used to. If there is a dial, if there is a knob, that's just amazing, because you don't have to take, where your knob is, and you don't have to take your line of sight and change it to the screen. And what's also important about the screen is that it's actually very, 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 very fast in functioning. It's very receptive. It's not like one of those low budget touchscreens that you get aftermarket. This is actually a block-punk unit which is quite responsive, and from a music quality wise, the speakers are just about okay, but that's something that you cannot expect a little too much from. So I think that way it's a pretty good deal. And what's also interesting is yes, so when talking about Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, you need to connect your phone through the port, and you will find the USB port somewhere just under, not sure if the camera can capture it, but it's somewhere just under the gear lever, and it's a little difficult. So you can see that there's an aux port and a USB port, and it's quite difficult to get when you're driving, especially to sort of try and get the cable into that specific port. It's quite difficult, and even if you have, say, a co-passenger who is trying to charge his or her phone, trying to reach that USB port when driving especially is a big challenge, right? And so yes, even when it comes to, if you can see this carbon fiber-esque finish, right? So this is something that Datsun has done even here as well. So to again sort of give you a premium feel, to give you a sporty feel, you can have it any other way that you want to, but it's just nice to see, it's just nice to have. And talking about the buttons here, so this is the AC function, and I should say that you would expect very cheap, I would say very low quality plastic, but this is quite okay, because it's justifiable. It's not too stylish, yes, it's not too basic as well, but it's something that's on an optimal level, so you can't really complain. And you also get you also get an onboard computer that gives you fuel economy and things like that as well. So right now it's 10.1 kilometers per liter with a combination of I would say bad city driving and fairly fast highway driving. This is not a number that you can take for reference. I'm sure it could give you a little bit more, but I haven't seen the fuel economy climb to anywhere that's above 12. So I'm guessing you can expect 12 kilometers per liter within the city, just like any other 1.2 liter petrol engine that you would find in the market. Right. So what's also nice is you also have these electrically adjustable ORVM. So you have the controls, you can choose which mirror to adjust, and you have the controls here to position the mirror exactly to your driving preferences. Talking about the AC is quite good. In fact, the throw especially is quite commendable, because for example, if you take the corner ones, if you take this vent and of course this vent here, you would get the throw all the way till this point, even when the AC setting is at 1, right? And that is quite good, because AC plays a huge influential role when it comes to deciding which car, right? And there are some things that are missed though. For example, again, the door isn't closed, so I need to give it that big force to make sure that the door is closed. And yep, so talking about the things that are missed, you don't get a vanity mirror here. That's something that's nice to have. There's nothing here as well, and you have this Bluetooth mic here, and that's quite good. Of course, you have, talking about safety, of course, this is the driver airbag, and you also have a passenger airbag there, with again ABS. So as a package, you have driver airbag, the passenger airbag, ABS, and these reverse parking sensors here, that are standard across the Datsun Go range, and that's a big commendable move. I mean, of course, it's going to become a norm very soon, and Datsun has been fairly forward with giving you those features, right away. And also, along with those norms, you get the speed alert system. So you get 3 beeps at 80 kmph, and you get continuous beeps at when you cross 120. The beeps are a little painful, especially when you're enjoying your drive. But I think above 120, it becomes a little too noisy, because you have a lot of wind noise and number 2 tire noise coming into the car. And acceptable, it's quite acceptable. You cannot really have an extremely soundproof car or an insulated car at this price point. But I think it's a great car to drive if you're sticking to somewhere below 110 kmph, because we even drove it on the highways, and especially with this nice little precise gearbox, it's quite interesting. Tip up with the gearbox though, because you have a fairly different mounting. You have a dash mounted gear lever, so it's a little hard to say which gear you're at. So right now I'm in neutral, but it looks like I'm in second gear from my view. So it's something that you would get used to as you have the car and as you keep driving it. But when you just sit in the car as a whole new car, you would continuously have that question as to which gear it is at. And this is again a short throw gearbox, right? The shift is a little rubbery, but that's okay. I mean, it's not something. At least it's giving you a sense of control, and that's very important at this price point, because sense of control again is also talking about the power steering, because most budget hatchbacks have a very light power steering. Therefore, it sort of reduces the driver confidence. But with the Datsun Go, the steering weight is quite optimal, so it's not too light and it's not too heavy as well. So that's something that's quite confidence inspiring, especially when you're driving at slightly higher speeds. And talk about the headlamps here. So if you look, I'm not sure if this this timing alone is giving great justice to it, but to be honest, even at the low beams, you get a fairly good throw, right? And usually in budget cars, the low beam doesn't have a great range, and therefore you need to keep shifting up to high beam here. But with the low beam on the Datsun Go, the spread is quite good, and therefore the visibility is much better. Right, so that's about it. You have a good one more thing about the previous version is that you had those exposed panels, especially in the rear. And if you even if you look at the Datsun Redigo for that matter, you would find those exposed panels of metal. But here it's all covered, right? Therefore, again, giving you a fairly premium outlook. Alright, so that's pretty much about the Datsun Go, and how you drive and the strengths and weaknesses is something that we would be telling you in our comprehensive video that's coming up. So stick around and do hit the subscribe button, because that way you'll be notified of all the other videos that we upload. So that's about it. Have a great day. Thank you for watching.